patio today. We're going to attempt our first food video. We've already had a technical difficulty, so we're going to have a little glitch right here at first. But we've had to improvise today. It's raining outside, it's thundering, lightning, the wind's been blowing. So you may hear some wind chimes and rumbles of thunder in the background. That's just God's music, folks. Just the way we're going to have it today. I've got some cheat notes. Hopefully I don't forget anything out of this recipe. What we're going to be making for you today is pineapple upside down cake. It's a good summertime cake. It's a favorite for a lot of people. I've got several different variations that I use of this. This is a very simple one. Now, as I mentioned a minute ago, we had a little technical difficulty. So in this bowl right here, we've got 3 whole eggs. And I beat my eggs a little bit slightly before I add anything else. And what I added was a yellow cake mix, 1 yellow cake mix. Don't get a cheap brand, folks. I don't know if it's technically culinary correct to say cheap versus better, but to me the better brand cake mixes do a little bit better. The cake's a little bit fluffier, a little bit airier. It's easier for you. But you want to add 1 yellow cake mix. So to this bowl, we're going to just give this a little bit of a mix. And yeah, we don't have a mixer, but if you're doing this in your house, there's no reason why you can't use a mixer. I'm just out here, we don't have a power, and on our chuck wagon, we don't have power anyway. So we got this in here. Now, part of the pineapple upside down cake is you have to have pineapples to go on top of the cake, and we'll do that later when we show you about baking it. But when you take those pineapples out of the can, you want to reserve all the juice. Now we need about a cup and a quarter, cup and a third of that juice, and we want to make sure that that's in here. Okay, we want to add that in there. Again, I'll make sure that y'all can see this recipe and you know where everything is. We're just going to go with this and make sure that we can get this worked out. All right, the other thing that we want to add is a touch of ginger. Now this is what Jeff does to this recipe. This right here is a teaspoon of ground ginger. We want to add a tablespoon of vanilla. And just a pinch, a very small pinch of salt. Everybody says salt in a dessert. Yes, salt in a dessert. I guarantee you your grandmother did. But you want to put all that in here and get all that fixed up. You want to kind of mix all this up and want to do a batter. Now, again, some of the way that I cook, I don't know if it's correct in some things that you would see out there in the Food Network or other channels that are out there. I don't believe you should beat your cake batter to death. You need to make sure it's well blended, but don't run it in your stand mixer in your kitchen. Don't run it in there for 5 minutes or something. Just get everything relatively good blended together. You want to make sure that your eggs are mixed well within your batter and you don't have any big dry lumps inside. So we just want to get this mixed up. All right, and now this is pineapple upside down cake. So we've got to do the upside down part. Today we're going to cook it in a 12-inch Dutch oven. Now, folks, I mentioned this before, but the favorite Dutch oven of mine is a 12-inch deep. It's a pretty universal Dutch oven. It works a lot for many different things that we have, but we need to flip this cake out at the end, right? So we want to do it in a shallow oven or a standard 12-inch Dutch oven. So we got that sitting up here. To this we want to add 1 stick, or it's a ½ cup, of melted butter. Now again, I will show you a few tricks of some things that I do. You don't have to do some of these. But this little fancy plastic brush, you can get it at any store. You want to kind of bring that butter up a little bit, about a couple of inches up the side of your Dutch oven. Because again, remember, we got to flip this out of here. So we want to make sure that This is well coated in here, and you want to make sure you're using a very well seasoned Dutch oven, not a brand new one, folks. Make sure it's got your seasoning on it. You want to take a cup of brown sugar. You can use dark brown sugar or you can use light brown sugar. And what we want to do is just sprinkle it all around the bottom of a Dutch oven. We can't dump the whole thing in there because there's butter in here, remember? So we just want to sprinkle all this brown sugar around the bottom. Now folks, if you get a little bump in there, a little lump of that stuff, it's not going to hurt anything. Or if you get a little bit sticks on the side where you put your butter. But you want to make sure you get it around the edges. So you want to get that. Again, that is 1 cup of brown sugar, and I will make sure you have this recipe. All right, we're going to get that done. Now it's time for the upside down pineapple part. We want to take our pineapple rings and we want to put them around evenly spaced. We're going to zoom in here in just a few minutes and show you what this looks like. But I'm going to get this pineapples in here, and we probably have more pineapple rings than we need. And we do. We want to get them laced in the bottom. Now your classic pineapple upside down cake has, and I'm going to mispronounce this probably, Maraschino cherries. Don't get the ones with the stems unless you want to pull all the stems out, folks. Get just a small amount. You're not going to need very many. The classic way, put this in the middle of each pineapple ring. And again, Lisa's going to bring the camera up here in a few minutes, and we're going to take a look at what I just did. And you could pop a few extras in there, and we do have a few extras, folks, so I'm going to steal it. All right. Now, Lisa, if you'd bring the camera up here and we'll show the good folks what this kind of looks like. I can't tilt it much, but that's what our pineapple upside down cake is going to look like. Okay?
Hold your recipe up.
And I've been told to hold the recipe, but I'm going to type this below the video so you'll have this. But this is Jeff's cheat sheet. I guarantee you this isn't going to make any sense to you because this is in Jeff language. But anyway, I'll make sure you have that below the video somewhere. Again, we're learning how to do all of this. All right, we got our pineapples and our brown sugar butter mixture in the bottom. Now, when you go to put cake batter in a cake pan, don't just dump this in there, because you've done a good job so far of decorating the bottom. If you just throw this in there, you're going to rearrange your furniture, folks, and it's not going to look good. So we want to be pretty gentle at first as we put this batter in there. Okay? And we want to scrape out all the goodness. If y'all wonder what I'm doing, I'm still chewing on one of these cherries I stole out of that bowl. But we want to get our bowl good and clean. We want to get all of our batter in there really good. Now, we need this cake to be fairly flat, so you may have to jiggle it a little bit, let it sit a few minutes. You want the cake to kind of even out, and give it some time in case you've trapped an air bubble in around those pineapples. Give it a minute to come out. So you want to give it a good tap and a good balance, and you'll make sure that you get that done. And now we're ready to bake. And we're going to put our lid on the Dutch oven. Now, are you baking this in the house? You're going to bake this for about 25 to 30 minutes at 350 in your oven. Here on the Dutch oven, this is probably going to be about 20 minutes at about that hot. That's our knob, folks. So I'm going to see if Lisa can bring the camera a little bit around here to the side to kind of show you what I'm doing. Again, for anyone cooking this in the house, this isn't a very important part. But since we're on the concrete, we put this pan down so that our coals aren't all over the ground and messing up our patio. What this is a metal pan that goes underneath your hot water heater, folks. It's very inexpensive. You can get it at any hardware store, and they work really great and they stack up easy, so when you got to carry them. I typically just do this straight on the ground, but we can't get in the yard today. It's all wet and rainy. So we're gonna trivet down there. It's about a 4-inch trivet. And I always use a trivet. We're gonna set our Dutch oven on there, folks. Now, I told you about the improvising part, and it's our first video. You thought we'd be a little bit better organized for this first video, but we're not. This isn't a typical shovel that you use. The shovel that I use has a bunch of holes in it, so your fine ashes, your white part of your coals can come out and you can shake them, all right? But it's buried inside my wagon somewhere and I couldn't find it. So again, we're gonna use this fireplace and we're gonna get us some coal, all right? And we're gonna just sprinkle them around the outside edge of this trivet. Now, if you're new to Dutch oven cooking, you wanna go err on the light side. You can cook it a little slower, a little cooler if you're new to Dutch oven cooking. All right, you can't reduce your heat as fast as you can add to your heat. So just be a little careful. And again, this is the pineapple upside down cake. I'm probably going to add a few more to that as we bake, but for right now, and to keep you from watching me shovel coals all day. All right. And then we're going to load up the top. Fairly, I want to say kind of a medium heat on the top. I'm not going to pull it very hard because we got a lot of sugar at the bottom, and it's kind of going to be caramelizing as we cook. And again, if I had holes in this, I wouldn't get these dusty coals, because those dusty coals actually insulate and they don't let the heat get into your Dutch oven. But that's a good place to get us started, folks. Now, again, to speed all of this up for the purpose of the video, when you got this in your Dutch oven and you're cooking, no matter what you're cooking, but breads and cakes and things like that are more sensitive to heat. You want to rotate that oven. Your coals, when you put them down there on the ground, they're not going to be even. So you're going to have a hot spot on one side and a cool spot on the other. Rotate your oven, rotate your lid. You can't do that too much, all right? The more experience you got, you know how long you should go. Well, folks, we're going to give this a cook because we haven't learned how to fast forward videos in our new video software yet. We're going to give this a cook and we're going to come back in just a minute and we're going to attempt to flip this out. All right, folks, welcome back here. We've got these pineapple upside down cakes baking. Now, we're doing 2 of these cakes today. So if you notice, this is a little bit different Dutch oven than what I started with. It is, but we're doing 2 of these cakes. I want to talk just briefly about the Dutch ovens. Folks, this was a gift to me, but this is not my favorite type of oven because it doesn't have legs. I like the legs because it just keeps it up. It doesn't matter, most of what I cook on a trivet anyway. The legs are a little irrelevant. But when you take this off of the trivet and you go to set it down to cool, it's harder for the bottom to cool. So the bottom will want to cook a lot harder even after you take it off the fire until the cast gets cold. It traps that heat. So we bake this Dutch oven, or we bake pineapple cake in the Dutch oven, let me say. And just like old-fashioned times, we don't need anything fancy. You want to take a toothpick, a stick, whatever you've got, go in here and make sure that that comes out clean. That's a good way to know that your baking is right on money. Now, we're a little wet on the end, but remember we got butter and brown sugar at the bottom, so it's going to be a little damp at the very bottom, and I might have stuck it actually in a pineapple, so we don't know. And then we want to take a knife. It's already tried to separate from the edge, but we want to take a knife and just go around the edge a little bit, make sure that we're free, because folks, we're going to flip this out of here. We're going to attempt to flip this out of here. Now folks, I usually use a trivet for this, but I have this little whiz-bang tool that you can get from different stores. It's to hold your lid. Because the problem with flipping these is you have to be careful with how you flip them. But the easiest way to do it is to flip it out on the lid. We're going to put our lid back on. And now wish me luck, folks. We're going to hope this is going to work the way we want. Okay, just a small amount stick right there. But folks, this is your pineapple upside down cake. See how that looks? We had a little lump of brown sugar right there, but again, I guarantee you it's going to taste just the same. But folks, this is a simple, easy recipe. We use cake mix, some brown sugar, butter, a little cinnamon, a little vanilla, and you can do this in your house and be like a queen or a king with a fancy dessert for a good summertime. Now, one thing I am going to do before we say goodbye is I'm going to eat a piece of this, or I'm going to make sure that it tastes good. So we're going to go out here, and I'm going to get the whole pineapple, folks. I'm not going to be shy. Again, your lid makes a good way to flip anything out of your Dutch oven. Now I'm going to walk over here a little closer to the camera. See how fluffy that cake is? See how tender? That's why I'm saying use a good brand cake mix in this, or do your own cake. All right? Now, we're going to get a taste of this. See how good that works? That's really good, folks. Folks, I appreciate you being patient with us as we learn how to do these. We're going to learn how to do these cooking videos. Got somebody driving by making noise, so hey, they're applauding, I guess, let's just call it that. But be patient with us as we do these. We want to show you our way of doing stuff. Again, my culinary terms and methods may not be textbook correct, but I know they work because I've used them for a long time. That cake got me. Folks, as we always end every video, enjoy your food.